Good afternoon, and welcome to the National Baptist Convention USA Incorporated National Health Fair. We'll be starting in about 3 minutes. Thank you for joining us today. Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Miner, and I am the National Director for the National Baptist Convention USA Incorporated Hope Health Initiative. We're excited to have you join us today. We bring you greetings on behalf of our President, Dr. Jerry Young, and the Chair of our Federal Faith-Based Initiative, Dr. Alvin Love. We want to let you know today's webinar is a part of our virtual 16th annual Health Fair webinar series. We know that we had to cancel our National Baptist Congress in Kansas City, which would have been held on next week. So throughout the month, we are virtually sharing information about your National Baptist Convention. We do want to let you know that our next webinar after today will be on Thursday. And if you have not had a chance to register, you may do so by going to www.hopenbc.com. We have a very exciting webinar scheduled for you today. COVID-19 lockdown, eating healthy on a budget. And I want to take a moment to introduce our facilitator for the day, and then I get out of the way. Also, the chat space is available. So if you have any questions or comments, you may do so. We are streaming this on our Hope Facebook page, and we are streaming this live on YouTube as well. So you come in and join us on either one of these avenues. Our hashtag for us is pound Hope NBC, pound Hope NBC. Look, our facilitator today is Sister Ellen McKnight. We're so excited to have her a part of our team. She is our millennial. A lot of things when you have ministries in the church, it's everybody over 90. But we're so glad to have somebody that's got young and full of energy. She is excited about being healthy, about healthy communities. She believes that healthy communities are built on the foundation of education, access, and opportunity. Promoting health style changes and providing urban communities with economic development opportunities by way of fresh food access is Sister McKnight's life goal and passion. She's currently the principal and founder of the Maxine Firm. The Maxine Firm does a lot in the area of nutrition and wellness. It's made up of a network of healthcare professionals whose primary objective is preventing chronic diseases related to nutrition practices. She's a member of the Baton Rouge Dietetic Association, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, the National Organization of Blacks in Dietetics and Nutrition, and Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority. She has a Bachelor in Science in Human Nutrition and Food and a Master's of Public Administration Healthcare concentration from the Southern University and A&M College. She is currently pursuing her PhD in Human Nutrition and Public Health. And it says, close on our bio with this comment: heart attack doesn't have to be our family history, and diabetes doesn't have to be our destiny. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Sister Ellen McKnight.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Miner, for that rousing introduction. My name is Ellen McKnight, and I'm so excited to be sharing with you all today on eating healthy on a budget. So if you would indulge me for 3 seconds, I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to jump right in it. So if you all can see my screen, let me know in the chat or in the comments, or if someone could say yes, we can see the screen, that would be great. Let's see. Dr. Miner, can you see the screen?
Yes, you're good. You're good. Okay. You're good.
Wonderbar. All right. So what's the topic today? The topic today is eating healthy on a budget. So we are so excited that Hope empowers us and encourages us to live our healthiest lives. But today we're going to give you some tools to equip you and some resources to start you on your way. Like he said, I do serve with the Hope Ministry under Sister Nettie Johnson's direction for Louisiana state. And so we're going to jump right on into nutrition today. So he's already given the introduction. I am a graduate of the Southern University A&M College from the Department of Agriculture. Nutrition is my thing. Master's degree, working on that PhD. And yes, so we're moving merrily along. Today, we are going to be talking about eating healthy on a budget. So we're going to break that down into 2 areas. So we're going to talk about how do you eat healthier, and how do you eat healthier while budgeting. And then we're going to leave you with some healthier hacks or resources or tips that you can take with you. So we encourage you to pull out your pencil and your paper, because you're going to be taking some down notes today. So if there's anything that you don't catch in this presentation, if you aren't able to get everything down on your notes, everything that we have before you will be provided by Hope, and Dr. Miner will be able to shoot it out to you. So make certain that you connect with them via email. And if they are not connected with them via email, you can connect with them on social media and their website, okay? So how to eat healthier? So that's the age-old question. We know that we need to be eating healthier, but the question is the how. So we used to use this thing called My Pyramid, right? My Pyramid is long, long gone. Now we use My Plate. And so the whole point of My Plate, every time you sit down to your plate, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you want to make certain that your plate is balanced. So when you say, how do you eat healthier? You want to make sure that your plate is balanced. You want to make sure that your plate is colorful, and you want to make sure that you have a variety of foods, okay? And so when we say balance, we mean that, and when we say colorful, we mean that everything on your plate is not either brown or white. 9 times out of 10, if everything on your plate is brown, white, or yellow, it's probably high in sodium or high in sugar or high in fat, right? So think about it. If we have a plate of fried chicken with macaroni and cheese and dirty rice and a side salad with ranch, we're not doing really well, right? So we want to encourage you to consume color. We want you to encourage you to consume a variety of foods. A variety of foods meaning from different cuisines, different countries, different herbs, different spices. And those colors, different colors offer your body different vitamins and nutrients. For example, foods that are red are high in lycopenes, okay? We need that for prostate cancer. Foods that are like red and purple, they're high in antioxidants, and antioxidants fight free radicals that cause cancer in our bodies. So we want you to make sure that you keep that in mind, okay? Balance, make sure that your plate is colorful and that you're consuming a variety of food, all right? So try something different, make sure there's color, and make sure there's balance. And don't forget about portion control. We're moving along. So the first thing on my plate, and so my plate is broken down between 5 areas, okay? So we saw that we have grains. We're gonna go back here. We have grains, fruit, vegetables, proteins, and dairy, okay? And I wanna talk to you about whole grains first, because whole grains is where it's at. If we're talking about eating healthy on a budget, this can really, really help. One of the reasons why whole grains help you eat healthier, and they also keep you on budget, is because whole grains keep you fuller longer, okay? Whole grains keep you fuller longer. They keep the family full longer. It helps the meal stretch longer. Why are whole grains healthier for you? Whole grains are healthier for you. Why? One reason is because it's the way God intended. So we want to try to consume our foods closer to the way that they grow out of the ground or grow off of a tree or come off of a vine, right? But whole grains keep you fuller longer. They're higher in fiber. That's the first thing. This is where we get out our pencils. So I'm going to slow down. This is where we get out our pencils. Whole grains are where it's at because they're higher in fiber, okay? Fiber is what your gastrointestinal tract needs to help pull all the waste out of your intestine. If your intestines are just full of waste, it's just kind of sitting there. When you consume grains like white rice, white bread, white pasta, white snacks, those aren't whole grains. Those are refined grains. And actually they convert into sugar faster, okay? And they cause your blood pressure your blood sugar to spike. So we want to encourage you to consume whole grains. We want to encourage you to consume whole grains because they are higher in fiber, and also they help lower cholesterol. I don't know if you've ever seen the Cheerios commercial, but the Cheerios commercial is always encouraging you to eat whole grains because they help lower cholesterol. Here's an example. I have one. This is Honey Nut Cheerios, right? So you'll see this on the box. It says lowering cholesterol. And so whole grains are high in good cholesterol. They have good cholesterol, you have bad cholesterol, and the good cholesterol is HDL. Essentially, whole grains try to prevent buildup in your arteries, and that's what cholesterol is. And so when you consume more whole grains like whole wheat bread, whole wheat pasta, so on and so forth. That's the good cholesterol, eating the bad cholesterol in your arteries, and helps prevent heart attack, okay? So we want whole grains because of they're high in fiber. We want whole grains because they help reduce your cholesterol, and we want whole grains because they're economically friendly and they keep you fuller. They keep the family fuller longer. Okay. So if we have any questions about whole grains, be sure to write those down. When you go grocery shopping, one of the best things you can do to eat healthier is use the substitution method. So what does that mean? If you normally eat Cheez-Its, get the whole grain Cheez-Its. Okay. If you normally eat, I don't know, saltine crackers with soup or snack on them, get the whole grain ones instead, okay? These are ways that you can win, okay, and eat healthier by using the things that you normally eat and switch them out. If you are a pasta person, use the whole grain version, okay? And so if you say, for example, you don't know if a whole grain item is a whole grain or not, you can look for the whole grain stamp. Here's another one, Ritz. Whole wheat, right? You just have to look a little harder. But anywho, if you're wondering if it's a whole grain product or not, the best thing you can do is look for the whole grain stamp. There it is. That's the whole grain stamp. If you do not see the whole grain stamp, can y'all say that? If you cannot see the whole grain stamp, just check the trusty dusty food label. The first ingredient will say whole grains. If it says enriched whole grains, it is not a whole grain. Okay. So if we have any further questions on the whole grains, I spent so much time on them because they are so important as it relates to healthier eating. That's the thing that we can switch out most readily, right? So if we go to Subway, the first thing they ask you is what kind of bread, right? And instead of choosing Italian herb, we are going to be talking about whole grains, next time we go out. But we're doing a lot of cooking, so this is how we substitute it. If we're doing spaghetti or pasta, whole grain. If it's a dish with rice, whole grains. If it's cereal, whole grains. If it's instead of grits or oatmeal is the whole grain, okay? And then also, if you have the kiddos at the house and you have snacks and things like that, these are our favorite crackers, right? I've had this at almost every vacation Bible school. Well, guess what? You can use the whole grain ones instead of those light refined grains. Moving merrily along. So,
Sister Ellen.
yes.
Sister Ellen, that's some fantastic information. We have a question. If you would like to address it now, or would you like to hold it on to the end?
Let's address it now, Sister Nettie.
Okay, so we have a great question from Sister Carr, and she says, well, what do you do when you were talking about making sure that there's variety on your plate and there's a lot of color? What do you do if you don't have access to colorful foods in your home, if your access is limited?
If your access is limited to colorful foods in your home, I would definitely encourage you to look around for your resources. So the first thing there is now, here in Baton Rouge, we have a program through the mayor's office and through the food pantry. It's called Top Box, but Top Box is nationwide. Top Box is a fresh produce service for limited resource families. And what it does is it delivers fresh fruits and vegetables to your house in a box. But you can use food stamps or EBT. And if you don't want to use food stamps or EBT, you can also use, it's about $20 for a box, but it's 40% under, market price. So that's one thing that you can do. If you don't have access or transportation, you can also order your food online because we are not really getting out that much. So a lot of people are using Walmart.com. A lot of grocery stores have delivery options for you, right? And you can choose your produce and pick out your produce, and it's also delivered to your home. If you do not have access, I would also, if there's limited access, we have to do a little bit extra work. So looking for farmers markets in your area that are just kind of like pop-ups, you should definitely want to check out some of those. Food pantries are also delivering in this COVID season. So, you might want to reach out to a food pantry to see if they're delivering, if they have pickup sites. there are a lot of schools that are also serving for sites for fresh fruits and vegetables. So pantries, you also want to utilize any elderly services or council on aging centers that are in your area. The Federal Office of Elderly Affairs is still fully funded at this time. So they are providing balanced meals for families that are in the elderly population. So food pantries, look for a top box. They have different states. The grocery stores are having online delivery from most of the major retailers. And so, yeah, there are different type of resources for things for limited access, and especially if you're having transportation issues. And then lastly, thinking long term, for example, in March, we started growing a garden, and now we have a whole garden full of mustard greens, collard greens, and okra. So as you look at access at this time, I would seriously encourage people to start growing gardens at home. Even if you don't have a lot of land in your backyard, you can do container gardens and grow things that are sustainable, like greens and things like that. So I hope I answered the question. I would love to connect with you further after this if I did not, to offer some more resources for access.
Those were great, great, great suggestions. And we have one other quick question, and this one comes from Brother Macaulay. And he says, when you mentioned the Cheerios, he said, what about the honey in the Cheerios?
That's a good question. The honey and the Cheerios, that's an artificial flavor, right? So when I talk about cereals, I'm always trying to give people better options. So most of the time, most of the audiences that I'm talking to, these are audiences that are not eating Cheerios, those kind of cereals, they're eating Frosted Flakes. And so what Frosted Flakes or some other sugary kind of cereal, like Fruit Loops or something like that, not really thinking that it's high in sugar, just thinking that it's a breakfast cereal. So with the Honey Nut Cheerios, yes, that is an additional artificial flavor or added sugar, but there are also just regular Cheerios, and you can get those as well. Those are also whole grains. I just chose the Honey Nut Cheerios. It's because it's one of the more popular ones, but you do not have to get the ones that are Honey Nut Cheerios. You can get regular Cheerios, and if you want to sprinkle your own little bit of honey on it yourself, you can definitely do that, because you can control how much you put on there.
Awesome. Thank you. There are no other questions.
Thank you, Sister Nettie. Okay, so we're moving merrily along back. So when we think about balance and we think about my plate, we want to think about lean proteins, okay? And so Sister Nettie and I had this jingle about these proteins. So the fewer the feet, the leaner the meat. You want to consume lean proteins because lean proteins mean they're lower in fat, lower in saturated fat. All fat is not created equal. It's good fat and there's bad fat. Lean proteins are going to help with the good fat, right? So we talked about good cholesterol, bad cholesterol, HDL, LDL. The HDL, the good cholesterol, is found in lean proteins, okay? And so how do you know one protein is leaner than the other? So the fewer the feet, the leaner the meat. The fewer the feet, the leaner the meat. So what's leaner, a cow or a chicken? We know it's a chicken. What's leaner, a chicken or fish? We know it's fish. What's leaner, fish or beans? So we want you guys to think about that when you are consuming your protein. What's leaner, pork or turkey? So what does that mean? When we are making our selections in the grocery store, when we're using our healthy grocery store checklist, and if we're doing a meal that requires ground beef, we're going to use ground turkey instead, because we don't have time for a heart attack. All of us in H.O.P.E, we talk about precision medicine. One of the things that H.O.P.E and all of us is trying to do is make certain that African Americans aren't the blood pressure medicine that includes like the ACE inhibitor that causes our face to swell. I think it's lisinopril. It's a blood pressure medicine, and a lot of these highly saturated fat proteins are high in sodium. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that we reduce the amount of sodium that we intake. And a lot of times saturated fats or fatty meats are high in sodium. So lean proteins like salmon, avocado, nuts, beans, those are the winners. So we want to encourage you to do white meat, turkey, fish. And when we do the fish, we don't want you to fry it, amen. Okay, we want you to bake it. We want you to broil it. We want you to use other preparation methods that don't require frying, because the frying is it increases the amount of saturated fat that we put in our arteries. And we know saturated fat over a long period of time, sometimes a short period of time, leads to heart attack. So choose lean proteins, all right? Moving along. So here's the other thing, guys, we have to change the culture in our homes, in our families, in our churches, and on our plates, particularly in the fellowship hall. So when and most of this information is coming from the USDA's recommendations and USDA's My Plate. And so USDA My Plate recommends that we make half of our plate fruit and vegetables. Okay, so most of the time, what we care about most is the grains and proteins. The grains and proteins don't care about us that much, right? Because they are higher in fat, they're higher in sugar, they're higher in salt, so on and so forth. But nutrients, that's chemical compounds found in food, the things that we need to sustain, most of those are found in fruits and vegetables. So if we can get full off fruits and vegetables first, we will increase our likelihood of living healthier, longer lives, and increase the likelihood of chronic disease. So we want to make certain that you are consuming more fruits and more vegetables that are different colors, right? Now, there are other that we want you to branch out. What am I talking about? Green beans can't be our go-to vegetable all of the time. Okay, there are other vegetables out there, and the Lord wants you to know them in a personal way. So there are eggplants, zucchini, squash, tomatoes, all types of fruits and vegetables, kiwi, star fruit. And so, I'm listing all these different fruits and vegetables, but a lot of times we do what's familiar. And that's why grocery store guides are so important. Make sure that you pick up a grocery store guide. If you don't have one, National Baptist Hope will shoot one out to you. We have one that we will shoot them to them, and they will shoot one out to you. Make sure that you are Googling healthy recipes. If you don't, make sure that you are ordering healthy cookbooks. I don't know if you ever tried Veganish, but it is a healthy cookbook that opens your mind and your horizons to different foods and different preparation methods. So make half of your plate fruits and vegetables, okay? And so from a budgeting standpoint, say, for example, if you don't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables, frozen is your next best option. Say, hey, you don't have access to frozen fruits and vegetables. Well, canned is your next best option. And when you do canned fruits and vegetables, that can needs to read no salt added. No salt added. It does not need to read 25% less sodium. No, it does not need to read, reduced sodium. It needs to read no salt added. Okay. And when you're choosing your vegetables and are you choosing, items in those as a canned good, you always want to flip that label around and compare the sodium, because increased sodium leads to stroke. Increased sodium over time, it leads to kidney failure. We don't have time for dialysis. Increased sodium over time also leads to heart attack. We don't have time, right? So I do see, and then also increased sodium contributes to water retention in the body, okay? And we don't have time for that either. So check the food label. Frozen, if you can't get fresh. Canned, make sure the can says no salt added. Sister Nettie, do I see a question in the Q&A?
Yes, we have a couple of questions for you. First of all, there's a question, can you address whether fresh is better than frozen as it relates to vegetables? That's the first question.
Okay, well, there is a good bit of research going on about this. And so the frozen, a lot of our scientists are saying that, frozen is not too far under fresh. Now let's just be honest. The fresh, if fresh is A+, our scientists are telling us that frozen vegetables are like a B+ or A-. Reason being is because they are being harvested and blanched and frozen at a time where the nutrients are, pretty high, and they're, acceptable for consumption, if they're shipped and, and there's a long period of time in between them actually being harvested and you cooking them. Frozen is the optimum selection for your fruits. Excuse me, fresh is the optimum selection for your fruits and vegetables. Fresh. But if you cannot get them fresh, fear not. Frozen is a close second. So I hope I answered.
Awesome. And then there are two other things. Brother McCalkey put in a link, and I will drop it into the comments so that everyone can see. You were talking about not frying when you were talking about your proteins and your vegetables. And he provided a link that is provided by the Arkansas Minority Health Commission. And you're going to love the name of this, Ellen. It's called Southern Ain't Fried Sundays. And it's basic. And it's a resource that has food ideas, like you mentioned, Googling recipes and those kinds of things for you to eat more healthfully. And it's kind of very ethnically and culturally sensitive, aware to how we like to eat. So I'll be sure to drop that in the comments. Thank you so much, Brother McCalkey, for sharing that. And then the other question that was posed has to do with, can you talk about or give ideas of other vegetables that are not very carb heavy? A viewer on Facebook mentioned that diabetics have to watch their carbs. So as they're filling half of their plate with fruits and veggies, can you give them some ideas that will keep that restriction in mind?
Okay, so let's jump merrily along over here. So here is a healthy grocery shopping guide. Let's go to the vegetables. Okay. And so all vegetables are carbohydrates. And so I'm assuming that you are looking for vegetables that are maybe not as starchy, and as it relates to making sure that your blood sugar is oh my gosh, your blood sugar does not spike. And I know that carbohydrate counting is like imperative. So for questions like this, I definitely recommend you sitting with a clinical registered dietitian to discuss things like that. But what we can do is go through the vegetables that are available and try to diversify your vegetables. But every diabetic is different. Some are type 1, some are type 2. And the best thing for suggestions for diabetic diets and things like that is to sit with a clinical registered dietitian and a CDE. But we will go over all of the vegetables. The vegetables that everyone should definitely consider to incorporate. So like artichoke, arugula, asparagus, avocado, banana peppers, bean sprouts, beans, beets, bell peppers, bok choy, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, carrots, cauliflower, celery, collard greens, corn, cucumber, dandelion, edamame, eggplant. The list goes on. Hopefully you can see the list. But that's a really good question. And diabetic patients, type 1 and type 2, require different amount of, they require nutrition counseling and not just nutrition education. And because every diabetic is different and on different medications and things like that, it's really imperative to have a personal touch as it relates to your nutrition and your nutrition counseling. So like I said, I definitely recommend reaching out to a clinical registered dietitian that has access to your labs and your A1C3 and all of that. But these are some options that you can go into that meeting or that personal consult with your registered dietitian and going through these items, figuring out, hey, what do I like? What do I want to start incorporating that I'm not already incorporating? And does this work for my nutrition care plan as it relates to my type 1 or type 2 diabetes?
Thank you so much. Excellent answers.
Good stuff. Okay, we're moving back. Okay, so we talked about the vegetables and the fruits and vegetables. We're doing more colors, all of that jazz. Now, dairy, guys, dairy is a big thing. We want you to, if you are still on the dairy train, we want you to consider choosing low-fat dairy. But check this out. Cow's milk is for cows and human milk is for humans. All right. And so most of us are not consuming breast milk this time in our Christian walk. And for that reason, we want to encourage you to consume other milk beverage options. Why? In as far as milk goes, it wasn't really made for us. About 70% of African Americans end up being lactose intolerant. Over time, they aren't able to tolerate milk simply because it's not made for you, right? If you are a person that is a avid cereal drinker, eater, or you just, you like, I have milk in my oatmeal, I get it, I understand. We want you to consider other milk options. Or milk beverage options. So things like soy milk. Now, if you're a guy, don't fool with that soy milk. But almond milk, okay? So what we want from milk is we want the calcium, we want the mineral calcium, and we want the vitamin D. We want the calcium and we want the vitamin D. We don't want the fat and we don't want the excess sugar. So that's why if you're still consuming milk, we want you to consider 2% skim milk, 1%. We don't have time for whole milk, okay, unless we're baking, okay? Now, if you're baking a pound cake, that's different. Everything in moderation. Let's not get crazy. But, if it's a pound cake, God loves that. But, that's in moderation. That's not all the time. But on a day-to-day basis, we want you to consider other milk options, 1%, 2% soy milk, almond milk. Almond milk is my favorite, okay? Now, if you try almond milk, we want you to make sure that you get the original almond milk, not the strawberry flavored almond milk, not the vanilla flavored almond milk, the regular almond milk, okay? Put that in your Cheerios that are whole grains, and in the instant you've had a healthier breakfast, okay? So we want you to consider those things. So we're moving merrily. Oh, and then also yogurt. So yogurt, that's really good for us because of the good bacteria that it offers for our gastrointestinal tract. So, think about low-fat yogurts and things like that. So when we think about dairy, know that it's not for us. If we're going to be doing dairy, we need to be making sure that it's 2%, 1%. Try almond milk, try soy milk, and then there's also lactate if you're really, truly lactose intolerant. Any questions there? Seeing none, we're moving along. So how to shop healthier on a budget. So we talked about some of these things already, but we're going to dig deeper, okay? So the first thing that you want to think about is you want to plan your meals weekly. If you plan your meals ahead of time, you'll be less likely to make a knee-jerk decision and spend a whole bunch of money. So say, for example, on Monday, I'm from Louisiana, and on Mondays we do red beans and rice. So on Monday, I'm doing red beans and rice. On Tuesday, with whole grain rice or wild rice, turkey sausage, more fresh seasonings instead of salt, right? So on Monday, I'm doing red beans and rice. On Tuesday, I'm doing spaghetti with whole wheat pasta. On Wednesday, I'm doing tacos with whole grain shells or whole grain tortillas. On Thursday, I'm doing turkey meatloaf. And of course, all of these are being accompanied with fruits and vegetables, right? In different colors. If you can't think about which fruit and which vegetables do I want to accompany with these meals, then you can pooch on over to your trusty, dusty grocery guide and choose from there, right? So planning your meals and say on Friday, hey, we're just gonna do pizza. But instead of getting a crazy pizza, we're gonna get a cauliflower pizza. So the cauliflower crust pizza is delicious. It is at the Walmart. It is not expensive. And say, for example, if you are ordering pizza, we're gonna order the very healthiest pizza. So we're going to do like a thin crust with a grilled chicken, and we're going to do bell peppers and spinach on our pizza. And we're going to have that delivered instead of a, pan tossed pepperoni pizza. So it's all about decisions and planning and so on and so forth. You want to definitely shop with a grocery guide. You want to plan out your meals. There are different grocery guides all over the internet. We have one. Hope has one. If you would like this one emailed to you, be sure that you are signed up with Hope and Dr. Minor and Sister Minor, and they will shoot it on out to you. But you want to shop with the grocery guide. That's so you don't get off. But you go into the grocery store, sometimes you become overwhelmed. So you want to make sure that you go in there with a roadmap or a plan that you've checked off because because you plan your meals and you know what you're eating for the week, so you know what you need to buy, right? Now, when you get in there, we need you to compare the food labels, okay? So like compare, like, you know what you need on the list. There are always different kinds. Compare the food labels and compare the prices. And guess what? Where is this? I know the Saints are bougie. I know the Saints are bougie, but Saints, nothing wrong with Great Value, okay? A lot of times the Great Value brand is lower in sodium, it's lower in cholesterol, okay? We want you to consider Great Value, all right? There's nothing wrong with it. All right, so when we already talked about substituting whole grains. Substituting whole grains keeps the family fuller longer, okay? So I want you to make sure that you are writing all of those things down. Sister Nettie, do we have 2 questions?
Sister Ellen, I see a question here that says, okay, something of going back to milk. Is there a milk that men in specific should avoid?
Soy. Men should avoid soy. It's a hormonal thing. You know, there have been some studies linked to soy, too much soy, and breast growth and things like that. So as far as men are concerned, we want you guys to try almond milk from the actual almond plant. Yes.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And Sister Brooks asked for the grocery guide to be emailed. And Sister Ellen's going to provide that. Dr. Minor will send that out to everyone that registered. If you happen to be watching through Facebook, so you're not registered, can you please just send an email to info@hopenbc.com. I'll put it in the comments. Just email us there so that we have your email address. We'll make sure not only will you get this guide, but if you'd like, we can also make sure that you can continue to get additional information and resources coming from the Hope Health Ministry. So just send an email to info@hopenbc.com. If you did not register for the webinar, if you're registered for the webinar, it's going to be coming to you later today. So thank you for that. Thank you to Ellen too for providing this really helpful resource. I think that's all I see in the comments. We're good.
We're good?
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. Well, we're moving along. How to shop healthier on a budget. The grocery guide is coming unto you if you've registered. If you have not registered, be certain to connect to Hope NBC. The minors have the juice. All right, so somebody asked about frozen fruit and vegetables. Guys, those work. They are economical, and you know, there's also Great Value versions of frozen fruit and vegetables. Get those. You know, we want you to make sure that you're not like, you know, stuck with a brand or anything like that. Like you feel like, oh, this is better because it's name brand. Not so Satan. Okay. We want you to consider frozen fruit and frozen vegetables. Those work. Now we talked about this already, but we want you to consider growing your own food in this season. Winter is coming and you are going to be in search of collard greens. We're going to have them. We want you to have them. And seriously, there are several initiatives that are encouraging you growing your own food. And it's not hard at all. Like, you know, Dr. Minor said, I am a millennial, but I can grow food. Okay. I can plant trees. I can plant vines, you know, and we have, and we will do that. And so consider I know this is a national effort, so consider what grows well in your area. All you have to do is look up a planting guide. And if you need a resource on how to plant a seed, we have that as well. I'm making the list. You can get that from Hope. So how to plant a seed, and then the healthy grocery guide. We want you guys, you know, on target on how to plant a seed. Okay, great. So shopping around the perimeter. Guys, all of our help comes from the Lord and around the perimeter of the grocery store, okay? Everything around the perimeter of the grocery store, for the most part, is either real, 9 times out of 10 is real food. What do I mean by that? It's real food. That means it's grown out of the ground. You can pick it off of a tree. You can pick it off of a vine. It was not made in a chemical plant. 9 times out of 10, if the food was made in a chemical plant, it's in the middle of the aisle. Okay, 9 times out of 10. So shopping the perimeter, that's where the produce is. Okay, that's where your vegetables are. That's where the fruit is. That's where your fresh meat is. That's where the seafood is. Okay, and we talked about lean proteins. The fewer the feet, the leaner the meat. We need you to get with flounder in this season. Flounder is on the perimeter. He's not in the middle. All right. So say, for example, you don't have the fresh produce, the fresh fish or the fresh seafood, because we do want you to consume the wild caught instead of the farm fish, because the farm fish is chock full of antibiotics, right? But there are like individually packaged fish that are on the perimeter of the grocery store. So like flounder, salmon, trout, tilapia, things like that. Now, I'm not a big tilapia fan, okay? But I would rather you consume tilapia rather than, things with more feet all the time. See what I'm saying? Okay, great. So we're moving along there. So we're going to break for some questions. We did cover a lot of ground. We don't want to hold you too long. Be sure to connect with us on social media. Like he said, I am the principal of the Maxine firm, and so I lead the nutrition effort. But we have a nurse practitioner, a nurse, a gardener, a physical fitness instructor, and so on and so forth, and a clinical psychologist. So we want you to make certain that, we want you to make certain that you are staying healthy in this season. And so Maxine Firm is connected with H.O.P.E at all times, all the time. Okay. And so if you have any questions about anything that we discussed today, be sure to reach out to us. Sister Nettie, do we have any questions or comments from the good folks online?
Yes. First, I'm going to give you a comment. The information was wonderful. Thank you so much for your sharing. And Sister Hill asked if you can speak to beverage choices, specifically about juice and soda. What are your recommendations there?
Sister Hill, flesh and blood did not reveal that unto you. We don't want to drink our calories, okay? And our beverage choices are so important for so many different reasons. If we're trying to stay out of the diabetes world, okay, we got to put the cold drinks from the South, so we say cold drinks, but the soda, the pop, what else is there? Pop, soda, cold drinks, we got to put those things down because they're so high in sugar, okay? So high in added sugar. And we do not want, and if we're in the diabetic space or we're trying to stay out of the diabetic space, that becomes important. So we want to encourage you to consume things like water, first and foremost, but then naturally herbal teas. So like making your own herbal tea, sweetening it with honey, okay? Working on reducing your tolerance for tea. So say for example, if you are a sweet tea person, I'm from the South, we believe in sweet tea. And, but a lot of times it's just too sweet. What we want to think about doing things like this, like get a glass of water and try unsweet, okay? If you're not in the unsweet tea ministry, that's okay. Get a glass of water, put half water in there and then put tea on the top of it, or put a fourth of water in there and then put the tea on top of it with your ice. Just try to start breaking down the amount of sugar that you intake, right? So you'll get the volume, you'll get the liquid to quench your thirst, but you won't intake as much sugar. So in terms of juices, you want to make sure juice is full of sugar too. Okay. So first thing, you want to make sure that it's 100% juice. Tang is not juice. Okay. When we say 100% juice is made from 100% fruit, you want to make sure that fruit punch, my God, today is not juice. We want you to make sure that whenever you buy juice, it says 100% juice. So you can, and then also if you're giving that juice to children, you want to be sure that you are cutting that juice with water. And then also you're limiting how much juice that they have. Capri Sun, it's not juice. Okay, it's just not. You want to limit how much they have because cavities are real and they're expensive. And we don't want our children walking around with silver teeth in this season. We want to make sure that we keep their little cute teeth intact, reducing their added sugar and making sure that they are drinking and eating real food. Okay. everybody else in the world is trying to kill us. As we know, we don't need to be wasting time and helping them by killing ourselves.
Amen, amen. And I'm cracking up over here. I keep muting myself because you got me cracking up. You're telling us truth and doing it in such an engaging way. Another comment regarding beverages. Can you also talk about energy drinks? I'm sorry if I missed that. You missed energy drinks. Where
Listen, we talked about that. Is it made in a plant type thing? Is it real? We know that when we consume things like lemonade, we know that's a squeezed lemon with some type of natural sweetener, okay? With the honey or a brown sugar or a white sugar. We're hoping that you're using honey. And then, water. We know that tea is from a tea bag. That tea bag it consists of herbs that have been dried out and are activated with hot water, sweetened with honey or sweetened with brown sugar. Energy drinks are not the move. Okay, they're not the move. We want to consume foods and beverages that are close to the way that God created them, as natural as possible. And energy drinks, sodas, that doesn't fit in the category. Okay, now say, for example, if you're addicted to them and you drink them 5 times a week, we want to encourage you to start drinking them only 4, and then 3, and then 2, and then 1, and then water.
Awesome.
Do we have any more questions?
There's another comment regarding, again, about the clear pop soda drinks, which you've addressed there. While we're waiting on questions, can I input 2 things really quickly, Sister Ellen, before we close out?
Absolutely.
So Sister Ellen just did a really phenomenal job outlining things that we can do to take individual control of owning our own health. And she hit on a wide variety of topics. And I want to kind of circle back a little bit to the access issue that so many people across the nation, and unfortunately disproportionately in our community, many African Americans have access issues. And she gave us 6, and I put them in the comments, wonderful things that we can do on an individual basis to kind of get access to the foods that are going to nourish our body. I want to talk just put it in your ear, a couple of things that may be reminders to you that are things that we can do collectively to change the situation so that our people don't disproportionately continue to go on and have these access issues. And the first one has to do with the census. So if you're watching this on Zoom or in Facebook, can you go on ahead and put a comment in if you have already completed your census? We really do hope that you have, and we're encouraging individuals to not only complete their census, but to also advocate for comprehensive counting of African Americans, particularly in this nation. The reason why, y'all, is that unfortunately resources and dollars do not follow the need, they follow data. I'm going to say that again. Dollars and resources follow data. And so if we want to make sure that we have some of these things, having accurate data about where our populations are and the strength that we have in numbers are going to be very important. I see some people saying that they have completed your census. If you haven't done so, I'm going to put a link in the box, but you can go to 2020census.gov. It takes just a couple of minutes. And if you've already done it, please do encourage other individuals in your churches, in your neighborhood, in your family to make sure that they're doing that, because that can help get information and data that can drive resources so that when people come asking and demanding for these things that we need, there's data that supports that. And then the second thing also has to do with data, and Sister Ellen mentioned this earlier in the presentation, and it has to do with the All of Us Research Project. All of Us Research Project is a project that started several years ago. Actually, it was, the genesis came up during the Obama administration, and it continues on today. And the National Baptist Convention is wholeheartedly behind this effort. And it's basically asking individuals to submit information so that we can have data about health conditions, health environments, things that impact us so that we can reverse some of these health disparities. And I'm going to put a link in the comments, both on Facebook and on Zoom. If you've not taken part of if you're not already in All of Us, and if you are, go on ahead and put that in the comments as well. It just gathers information. So again, data is available so that as we're making these individual lifestyle changes and choices and steps that Sister Ellen is equipping us with today, we can also get ourselves in a position so that collectively things can be done to see why we are still disproportionately affected with so many conditions, to get better research that will fit all of us. And so I see again some comments saying that people are part of all of us. I love that you are. And if you can continue to share these in your churches, in your communities, we would really appreciate it. So it's from a collective, census, and all of us. These can really help us to move the needle as a collective. So those are the two things that I wanted to add as I look for any additional questions. Sister Ellen?
Well, you know, Sister Nettie, you just are just so talented with this life application and just making this practical and appropriate for our community so we can make the maximum impact in this space. But I do not have anything for further. I want to thank everybody who joined today. I want to thank the Hope and the National Baptist Convention and all of us for providing this platform to educate our good folks on this Christian journey as it relates to health and wellness. Dr. Miner and Sister Miner, do you have anything else for us as we leave? We can't hear you, Doc. We can't, hold on, we can't hear you.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. I was so enthralled with nothing coming out of my mouth. I was just so ecstatic about what you've done. I just know everybody just excited about the things that Sister Ellen has done today. I heard about how good she was and all these things, and I saw a few things, but I want y'all to know today by seeing her share today. I just have one question. You talked about dandelions. What about poke salad? I knew I would get it with that one. But again, we want to thank all of you all for joining us today. It's good to have a little laughter. For those, those that registered, we're going to email you this information later on today. Our next webinar, let me go put something. Our next webinar is going to be Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Central Time, maintaining mental health during the COVID-19 pandemic. So that is going to be on Thursday, June 18th. And of course, we are supported in all this effort by the All of Us, as Sister Nettie said, the All of Us research program. And you can learn more about it on our website, hopenbc.com. And we want you to make sure that you be a part of this. Email us, text us, support us. Go to our website. You can find some more information about what we are doing. So Sister Ellen, Sister Nettie, it seems like, as we say in the country church, all hearts and minds are clear. So we thank all of you all for joining today on this webinar from your National Baptist Convention, USA Incorporated. We would ask those that are participating by Zoom to hold tight for one moment.